It's this Friday. So that's what happened. Oh, it's a meeting. What meeting?
Let's go ahead and call the Anoka County Board meeting
For March 27th to order. Would you please join me in the pledge?
pledge allegiance to the flag
And would the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Look.
Here.
Commissioner Brastad.
Here.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Here.
Commissioner West. Here. Commissioner Gamache.
Here.
Commissioner Schulte.
Here. Next, we will entertain tax claims and abatements.
Oops.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West. Aye. Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
And that passes. We'll move on to a review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and from Human Services.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And no one's opposed. Approval of the minutes from March 13th, 2018.
Move.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Anybody have any corrections? I've got one. Starting on page 55, at least the page 55 that's displayed to us, the top of the page, just a boilerplate problem, it says 2017. Should be 2018. And that's on every subsequent page as well.
Thank you.
Any further corrections or deletions? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And no one's opposed. For Chair's remarks, today we have 3 items under Chair's remarks. First, we are honored to have Judge Bethany Fountain Lindbergh with us to talk about an upcoming event that aims to make it easier for people to navigate our court system and also provide general information about our legal system as a whole. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I have a quick slide presentation this year. It's only 8 slides, so bear with me. It's not long, but this year our law day that we're going to recognize here in Anoka County is scheduled for April 27th, which is the last Friday in April. In 1958, it was President Eisenhower that established Law Day as that day of national dedication to the principles of our government. And then 3 years later, in 1961, Congress designated May 1st as that official date. So in Anoka County, we chose the Friday before May 1st as Friday is a good day to kind of invite people into the courthouse, to get some volunteers to help people out, and to have our official celebration. And so in the current form, which includes free legal clinics and the information fair and educational component, started in 2016. This is our 3rd year. And again, that law day is to help people better understand how the law, in fact, helps them, protects their liberty, and how we try to strive to achieve justice in the United States. So each year, the American Bar Association chooses a specific theme as a way to highlight to the community the legal process and one of our basic elements of law. This year, it's separation of powers, a framework for freedom, and it talks about the judicial branch, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and how those 3 separate branches create that check and balances, which is so key to our government. That's the theme for this year. The legal clinic, or the law day in Anoka County, again, is going to look similar to the last 2 years with the free legal clinics. We have several free legal clinics. We're in the process right now of obtaining volunteers for those. We have an information fair, which we have narrowed and limited to be those booths which provide direct services to the citizens. And we also have added an education learning track for students. That was brand new last year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And this year, my hope is to bring an educational track to adults and to wind up with tours of the courthouse. So what can you expect that's different from last year? Some of our clinical programs have moved to the courthouse to provide for bigger spaces and to better access the internet. We've added 1 additional courtroom for the students Last year, if you recall, we tried for the first time to run 2 separate courtrooms with a mock trial and some presentations about what it would look like as a student if you wanted this type of occupation, probation officer, lawyer, law enforcement. And we had about 90 to 100 people in those 2 courtrooms, students. So this year, when Eric was so kind to send out our public announcement, we have over 300 kids that are scheduled to come in. And so clearly that was important and enjoyed last year. And we're trying to accommodate all 300 of those kids. We had to kind of stop accepting new schools in when we reached that mark because we just don't have the resources right now or the courtrooms to handle that. But we will have several schools. I think there's about 8 different schools coming in for a total of about 300 kids. And then we have increased for those really busy clinics, expungements, driver's license clinics, and a general civil. We've expanded resources dedicated towards those 3 clinics from last year to reduce the wait time and make sure that we're accommodating everyone. We closed the clinics at 3 o'clock, and last year we ended up running till about 4:30, 4:45 to make sure that everyone got in. So those are some of the things that we're working towards this year to improve the services. And you can see that this really takes a huge number of folks to make it happen, and we are so grateful for all the services the county gives us, for the law library, for all the legal aid organizations. This is really collaborative and a win-win. It's one collaborative effort where everybody's happy and working towards a really fun common goal. And so what residents can expect, it's 9 to 3 again this year. There'll be a kickoff with opening remarks, welcoming remarks by the chairperson Subaraja and by Chief Judge Meslow, who's coming over from Washington County, just to make sure that he's participating in those opening remarks. There'll be that initial check-in at the atrium. All the students will be here. We're working with the security checkpoint to make sure that we can move those kids through to get to their classrooms. We have now consolidated all criminal matters and all driver's license issues on one area so that people can go directly to that area and have their multiple issues heard. And other clinics, there'll also be that scheduled presentations with our local leaders presenting and with some experts coming in to present. We're working on a presentation with the University of Minnesota Law School to present a continuing legal education for attorneys. So it's an exciting day. We look forward to it. It will be exhausting, but I'm hoping that it is just as successful as it's been in the past. So.
Well, Your Honor, thank you very much. Glad you could be here. And I would comment that most of these people, this is a very daunting experience to walk into a courtroom. It's most likely not the best day of their life. Mm-hmm. And anything we can do to decrease those levels of anxiety and get them more comfortable in that space, and then a combination of holding them accountable and being compassionate at the same time, I think is just a terrific way to go about this. And I'm very pleased to partner with the bench on this project.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's very good to see you all the time. Appreciate your being here today.
Thank you.
You've taken this project upon yourself, your own choosing to do that. You've been its most active promoter. You're doing what we try and do every day, which is to engage the community. You're doing it in a field of area that is unique, complicated, and certainly deserves our best effort, our best foot forward to trying to accomplish that. You've known great success. I just congratulate you on all that you've done. You're a fine promoter of this event. You've got many people engaged with you, and so because of your enthusiasm that we've gotten here today and over the years, so I'll just thank you again for all you're doing for us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would also add that Judge Fountain-Lindbergh, without her organizational skills, this would not happen. And I think the board recognizes that, and the public should too. Thank you, Judge Fountain-Lindbergh, for your efforts.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask you to join me in offering Resolution 2018-39, proclaiming April 27th, 2018, Law Day in Anoka County. Once again, we invite everyone to join us for this great opportunity to learn a convenient way to take care of business. The event is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the 27th, right here in the Anoka County Government Center and Courthouse. Thank you again, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And no one's opposed.
Thank you.
Next up, our second item this morning is to recognize the important work of our employees in the Central Communications Department, or 911. As Chair of our Public Safety Committee, I'd like to ask Commissioner Brasted to begin our recognition today. Commissioner.
Thank you. Central Communications are the people who answer the phone when you dial 911 anywhere in Anoka County, at any time of the day or night. In a typical year, our staff answer nearly 500,000 calls from people in need. Most important, our 911 team exceeds the national standards for call answering time. 94% of all calls are answered within 10 seconds. April 8th through the 14th is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, so we'd like to take this opportunity to celebrate and thank those who dedicate their lives to serving the public. I'd like to call on Deputy County Administrator Dee Goodman to introduce some of the staff members who are here with us today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dee Goodman, Deputy County Administrator. And today, as you know, being a 911 dispatcher is not a very easy job. The ability to deal with stressful situations while remaining calm, while having empathy for the person on the line that you are talking to. They are constantly juggling about 10 balls in the air at the same time. All the while, they are helping our citizens in a time of very stressful situations. This all makes this job one of the hardest, I think, at Anoka County. I'm proud to introduce two, come on up, Renee, two of our lead dispatchers who have made Anoka County Central Communications basically their career and their home. And why I say this is I have Renee Hank here, who has been at the county for 31 years, and also Danelle Lawrence, who has been here 37 years. So Danelle has a few words to say.
Thank you. Yes, I've been here 37 years. I was hoping to work here as long as Jerry Soma, but I don't think I'll make it that far. April 8th through the 14th is National Telecommunicators Week, which is a week that we celebrate and thank those who work in the 911 field. Anoka County Central Communications is staffed with 36 dispatchers, 6 lead dispatchers, a radio systems manager, and 3 technicians, along with a manager and a coordinator. Together, we take all 911 and non-emergency calls for Anoka County. The radio shop keeps all of our equipment working, including towers, computers, and 2,500 radios used by the first responders in Anoka County. Last year, the dispatchers took approximately 427,000 phone calls. Since approximately 75% of our calls come from cell phones, caller location has become more challenging. In December of 2017, Minnesota implemented texting to 911, which has provided a means for the speech and hearing impaired to reach 911, and has also been an interesting experience for the public and the dispatchers. We had approximately 250,000 radio transmissions for our system last year. On behalf of Val, Carrie, and our entire department, I want to thank the board for recognizing Anoka County Central Communications during National Telecommunicators Week.
Well, thank you so much to the entire Central Communications staff for their incredible work they do each and every day. As our previous item brought up, it's not always our citizens' best day when they have to reach out to 911 or the court system for that matter. It's an incredibly difficult job, and we appreciate the professionalism, poise, and compassion our dispatchers show every day while working behind the scenes. I think they all deserve a round of applause. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Our third and final item is to recognize April as the month of the military child. I'd like to invite John Creasel, who's the Director of Veteran Services here at Anoka County, to say a few words about the many contributions made by the children of military men and women in support of their parents as they serve our country. John.
Good morning. The month of the military child is a time to applaud military children for the daily sacrifices they make and the challenges they overcome. Military children make up a very special part of our population and stand in support of their military parents. Every day, these extraordinary young men and women shoulder responsibilities that their peers could never understand. The strength of our military is our service members, and the strength of our service members is their families. Military children are the force behind the force, and it is a wonderful gesture by the board to honor these young heroes for their important contributions.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. At this time, I'd like to ask you to join me in offering Resolution 2018-40, proclaiming April 2018 as the month of the military child. I would also like to encourage everyone to wear purple on April 13th to show your support of Minnesota's military children. Purple is used to represent all branches of the military, and on all social media, use the hashtag #PurpleUpMin, PurpleUpMN. So the resolution has been offered. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimously. That concludes our chair's remarks, and we will jump right into committee reports. We will start with the Management Committee. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have one action item on here. It's a new position in Parks and Recreation contingent on Minnesota Department of Revenue County Aid Program, and it is for an aquatic invasive species effective May 7th. It's a aquatic invasive species coordinator, grade 11, and the funding, of course, as I said, is State of Minnesota grant.
Very good.
I'll move it.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Is there further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner West. We will move on to the Transportation Committee report. Our Transportation Committee did meet here in the Government Center on March 19th. And we have one action item for you today. The committee recommends approval to enter into a joint powers agreement with the City of Circle Pines for the access improvement project from Naples Street to Lexington Avenue. And this authorizes the county administrator to execute that agreement. And it is subject to review by the county attorney as to form and legality. And I will move it.
Second.
And there's a second. Is there further discussion? And we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
That does conclude our action items under the Transportation Committee, but there is one informational item I will point out to both you and the public. The 2040 Transportation Plan Update Open House. That's put on by the Metropolitan Council. Will be at 4:30 at the Bunker Hills Activities Center. Boy, you think I would have put the date down here.
It's Wednesday.
This Wednesday. That's tomorrow. It is tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 in the Oak Room at Bunker Hills Activities Center. The Metropolitan Council will be presenting their transportation policy plan update. It's important to note that there are no major changes. It's an update to their plan. It's not a complete rewriting of the plan. We listened to it at our Transportation Committee, heard the presentation, and there were no major red flags. So if you're interested, show up at Bunker Hills Activity Center. And that does conclude my transportation report. We will move on to the Finance and Capital Improvements Committee Chair report. Commissioner Look.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We chose not to meet in Finance and Capital Improvements Committee due to just this one action item. And it's an action item we've seen before, but basically, I recommend the county board adopt Resolution 2018-F1 declaring the official intent of Anoka County to reimburse certain expenditures from the proceeds of tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the county. This is relating to the Centennial Library, and the intent of this bond resolution it gives the county the flexibility to pay itself back on certain expenditures that we've already made, or in terms of planning for this, the library expansion. don't know that it's been determined how we're going to pay for this as of yet, whether it's bonds or not, but this is the legal portion of allowing us to refund ourselves if we do go that route. So I'll go ahead and move it.
All right, I have an offer of the resolution, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
And
Very
Mr.
good.
Chair, that
Passes.
my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Look. We will now move on to the Human Services Committee report. Commissioner Brassad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on March 20th, and we've got a few action items. The first being, the committee recommends the county board submit a federal grant application for Title III-E funding in the amount of $419,790 for January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2023.
All right, we're looking for a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Next, we'll move on to behavioral health.
The committee recommends the county board provide a written statement of support with rationale for substance use disorder treatment licensure of Minnesota Health Resources, which is located in Spring Lake Park. And I will move that.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion passes. Next.
The committee recommends the county board enter into contract C0006370, which is a renewal with Acumen Psychological Services out of St. Paul for psychological evaluations and forensic consultations with an approximate 3% rate increase per year from April 1st, 2018 through March 31st, 2020.
Very good. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
And that motion passes. We'll move on now to the next item 4.
We have Resolution 2018-HS5, which is the economic assistant bills, which I'll offer that resolution.
The resolution's been offered. We'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye. And on to item 5.
And lastly, Resolution 2018-HS6, proclaiming April as Public Health Month in Anoka County. And I'll offer that.
The resolution's been offered. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed? And that motion passes.
And that concludes my report.
Perfect. Next, we'll move on to the Information Technology Committee report.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner Gamache.
Mr. Chair. We met on the 19th of March and have just one action item. The Information Technology Committee recommends the county board approve a purchase for the replacement of 21 network switches and 38 wireless access points from Insight Public Sector in the amount of $131,225.74. One of the benefits in the contract that we had worked on, and Susan can give you some more information about it, but we actually were quoted a total of $275,390, but through all the different contracts and things with the state contract, I believe, Susan, we got it down to the 131, which was a nice savings. And if you wanted to update us quickly on that, that would be appropriate right now.
Certainly. Mr. Chair, members of the County Board, I'm Susan Vreeland, the Director of Information Technology. We quite often, when we talk about replacing this equipment, we make comparisons to the highways in the county and the roads in the county. This equipment needs to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's traveled, sometimes it's got its busy or its rush hours, and sometimes it's traveled kind of slowly, but it's always got to be up and available. The equipment that we're looking at replacing today is part of a pretty robust schedule. We look at replacing so many pieces of equipment on an annual basis, so we're not doing one purchase at once. But as it relates to the cost savings, we look at not just the state contract, but negotiating some of the equipment that is end of life to the county. There's parts in there that are usable for the vendors, so we negotiated in trading in those pieces and parts as a part of the discount to the county. As far as what we're looking at replacing today, the equipment that I mentioned is at end of life related to the switches, which is what the computer plugs into to get to your data, are located both at the sheriff's office and have been there since the standing up of that new building, so getting a little old, and also at our libraries. We also have some equipment we're replacing related to wireless, and we have wireless activity at 39 county locations now, and we've got 31 access points spread out through those buildings. 38 of those pieces of equipment are part of this replacement schedule as well. So a pretty significant project, but planned, part of the IT fund, but some savings through that negotiation process.
Thank you, Susan. And I will move it.
All right, we have a motion. And second by Commissioner Look. Any further discussion? I would just comment that, it seems like we take it for granted now, wireless access and fast wireless access. You just expect it. And I, for one, don't take it for granted, but I know most people do. And this actually helps because we not only upgrade the equipment as far as its lifespan, but we're also, I don't know what the exact term, we're more than doubling its speed and capacity, which is all very important with the devices we all use today. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye. Oh, excuse me, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
That ends my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamache. And we'll move on to Parks and Community Services Committee report. Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you, Commissioner. I did choose to call upon I had trouble today because we have our existing Parks Director who we know so well and our incoming Parks Director who we know so well. And I congratulate you on a decision by a committee recently to seek your appointment, and I'm sure many of you or all of you are aware, but I heard a couple of you them congratulating you, and I'll do that myself right now. And I wish that you, the kind of success that we've known in the past many years within our park system, and I wish you all the best.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kordiak, thank you very much.
All you have to say today, some items of interest today that we can pay some attention to. Jeff is adequately well aware of these items. One of them are two professional services contracts that we've been doing more and more in the park system and highway system as we engage certain areas of unique interest rather than going out every single time. This is in the case of rare species. We are obligated by state and federal laws, both in highway and parks, most commonly, to go out and do an examination when you do some infrastructure changes, whether it be highway, park system, or buildings and the like. And we have an interest in speeding up that process. We've gone out and engaged a couple of contractors who are listed for your review, and we would seek your support in enabling us to include them as professional services contractors. We recognize what their costs are and what their maximums are, and what our relationship with them is. When the time comes, we can pick either one and move forward. So I think that's what that's generally about, and I will move it.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? I would just comment that these next three items, this one and the subsequent two, are dealing with master contracts, and it's something that the county has recently delved into and has paid real dividends in many departments as far as speed of service and locking in a price and having those people available for the services we need performed. And this is just a couple more of those contracts here in item one.
Well, you did a pretty good job of carrying my next two items, Commissioner. The next one is a renewal of 8 master.
Well, before you jump into that, we're going to go ahead and vote on this first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I was just under the discussion point. I wanted to make sure
people thought it threw me off.
Understood it was a master contract. We will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
And that motion passes. Back to you, Commissioner Kordiak.
Now, that was the same guy that amended lines on page 57 of whatever document that was, so appreciate your, your due diligence, Commissioner. The next one is recommend that the county board award 8 professional services contract in the area of engineering services, actually. That can be used once again by both Parks and Highway as we work with projects within the county. Many of those names are listed for you. Many of you are quite familiar with those names. We recognize them throughout and over the years. They're listed for your review, and we might seek a motion on item 2.
I'll move it.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there further discussion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
And that motion passes. We'll move to item 3.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next one is a renewal of 7 existing master services contracts that we have in place and have for a number of years. We'd like to renew them once again, and I would move it.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there further discussion? Those in favor? Oh, no. Roll call vote again, please.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
And that motion passes. We'll move to item 4.
I'm going to ask Mr. Perry to comment about item 4. This is a submission for a grant with the Department of Natural Resources on the Rum River North County Park System, which is up in St. Francis direction. Can you comment at all, Jeff, about what we are seeking in this grant request?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. My name is Jeff Perry, Park Planning and Resources Manager for Anoka County. This is simply a grant application to the state of Minnesota seeking a resolution of support to get 50% cost share to replace the playground at Rum River North County Park in St. Francis. The playground itself is approximately 22 years of age. It's nearing its life's end. It currently is not ADA accessible, so the proposed plan is to make it accessible for everyone and to seek 50% funding from the state of Minnesota through the Outdoor Recreation Grant Program. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is simply a resolution of support, which is part of the grant application requirements to the state of Minnesota.
Thank you. Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer the resolution.
The resolution's been offered. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimous. Item 5.
And item 5, the remaining items, as I recall, are from information purposes only, and they're for your review.
I believe we have one more resolution, item 5.
Well, are you thinking of the waypool piece?
Amendment to the Central
Yes,
Anoka County
okay,
Regional
fine.
Trail Master Plan.
Well, I call it item 1 here, but we won't argue about it. There is a, no, when, did I miss item 5?
It is item 5 in your main report.
Fine, thank you for that. I jumped right over that.
I can read it for you quickly.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Item 5, the committee recommends that the county board adopt a resolution, PCS 07, relating to the adoption of an amendment to the Central Anoka County Regional Trail Master Plan. Mr. Perry, do you have some information for us here?
Yes, I do. Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is a resolution of support to essentially realign a very small segment of Central Anoka County Regional Trail in the far west end of Anoka County in the city of Ramsey. The purpose of the realignment is to realign the trail to bring it through the core development in the city of Ramsey to connect the trail with local businesses, local parks, local trail networks, the North Star line as well, which ultimately connects to Mississippi West Regional Park. So this request came through the city of Ramsey, one of our good partners in building regional trails on the west end of the county, and the resolution of support is before you this morning. From here, if approved, it will go through the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission and the full Metropolitan Council for approval. And this would position Anoka County for potential future funding of building portions of Central Anoka County Regional Trail.
And I will comment, Mr. Chair, that the county had previously had an alignment that we were satisfied with, but working with the city of Ramsey, they had some interest in better engaging their central community, so we're happy to cooperate with them. We saw no reason not to work with them to get this done, so that really is the purpose of the realignment.
Commissioner Look?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, the city of Ramsey is looking to do a pedestrian walkway across Highway 10, and this kind of positions that for possible funding that they would seek on this. And so we're trying to help facilitate their goals here and getting that accomplished by realigning it and affording them that opportunity if the money is available out there. So
Is that an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer it.
The resolution's been offered. Is there further comment? I would only comment to say that I look at many pedestrian bridges over very massive spanses of highway, and they're not heavily used. They're almost never used. So I have a little concern. But I'm hoping Ramsey's looking into that and finding ways to make sure people use that if it is built, and that it doesn't become a waste of taxpayers' dollars, whether they're Anoka County taxpayers or state of Minnesota taxpayers, they're still taxpayers' dollars. I would hope that every effort is made to make sure that this is heavily utilized and not just a concrete span across the freeway that nobody walks on. We have a few of those in the area that are not used, and it's unfortunate. And I'm hoping, I'm going to support this resolution because I believe in supporting our local partners, but I'm hoping they have a plan to make sure this gets used well. Commissioner Look.
Mr. Chair, I think the hope is that that people may be able to use the train to come in and then the walkway to walk across, use the park, and get access to some of those amenities. So I think that's kind of the ultimate plan. And I too hope it gets used if they find money for it.
Further comments? All right, the resolution's been offered. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimous. And now that I believe,
6, 7, 8, 9, Mr. Chairman, are for information purposes only.
very good, thank
I
you.
would conclude that report, though I have an additional item that we might consider. And this is the chair's report. This has to do with our county wave pool. Corey is here and available if you wanted to had a question. But we did the Parks Commission committee review, some discussion. There is some aging infrastructure within the critical structures of the wave pool that we feel that we need to attend to. Obviously, although it isn't warm out, it's getting warmer each day. Timing is an issue. We'd like to move this item forward. And so it's listed here for your review. There is a base bid amount of $103,493 for concrete and other structure work to help ensure the lasting benefit and security of the system.
I'll move it.
Second.
And there's a second. Is there further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
And that passes.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's the end of that report. We can take a look, if you would permit.
Yes,
to the-
Commissioner Kordiak, there is no rest for the wicked. You're up next with
I
your
give you that.
Property Record and Taxation Committee.
And I deserve that. Property records and taxation, item number 1 has to do with a pie-shaped piece of property that abuts a county roadway. It was set aside and given to the county for right-of-way and roadway purposes. We do not need that parcel of property for that purpose. We haven't for years. We have a farmer who abuts that property who has an interest in acquiring it. We desire in this matter to reconvey that property back to the state of Minnesota and then seek to eventually, later, convey it back to Anoka County in a fashion that would allow us to transition it, sell it to the abutting owner. And I'll move that item.
All right, we have an offer of the resolution. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that motion passes. On to item 2.
Item 2, Mr. Chairman, I might call upon Cindy Riker, who is here today. This is an item that many of you are well familiar with. This is some new election equipment that we're adding to our election process. I think we're rather excited about it. Election certainly is. I heard a lot of positive reasons why we should be moving in this polling book direction, and maybe Cindy just kind of highlight some of the things that you look forward to in this acquisition.
Well, good morning, Commissioner Schulte, members of the board. What this contract that you're about to approve, I hope, is for electronic poll books. These replace the paper rosters that are used in our polling places. They make it, it's an easier way to check in voters. No longer will voters have to go to one line if they're already registered and a second line if they need to update their registration or are a new voter. It's any line, anytime for the voters. Very easy process for check-in, especially for our election judge. It literally walks the judges through each voter's requirements, data, oaths, signatures, etc. So because it guides the election judge through that process, it's almost impossible for an election judge to make a mistake like registering somebody in the wrong precinct or registering somebody that is already a registered voter. Those are two common things we see. So it is easier for the election judges, faster. Also, it allows us to update those rosters later toward the election. We do what we call locking our rosters so that we can get the paper printed and distributed. With this technology, we're able to wait a little bit longer before the data is locked, so it's more up to date than it would have been with our paper rosters. And additionally, in the morning of Election Day before 7 a.m., we do a final data push that is the absentee ballots that were cast the day prior and the Saturday prior, so that all of those absentee records are updated. If a voter should come to the precinct and present themselves and they have voted by absentee ballot, then that record will be blocked off and they will not be allowed to vote in the precinct. Likewise, we are receiving absentee ballots all day on Election Day. Up until 8 p.m., we can receive some kinds of absentee ballots. We will be able to do some pushes of data out to the precinct that will automatically list those voters who have, we are just updating that day as having voted, and give us the records of people who have voted in the precinct on Election Day, so that we know that we can open those absentee ballots that are in our possession, get those into the count so we can report our results at 8 p.m. It's much easier for us to load the data on these than it is to go through the process of printing and distributing heavy books. There are, of course, backup materials in the precinct if they should for some reason not be working. Post-election, the data that is normally hand-keyed in through data entry by our staff can be done again through an upload to the state system. So it's good for the voters, it's good for our election judges, and it also has benefits for our staff as well.
Very good. Any questions for Cindy? Commissioner Look.
Mr. Chair, I just, in terms of the financing here, I see 600-some thousand as far as the grant, and the county responsibility is $335,539 with ongoing operational costs. The $335,539, is that, Jerry knows this, is that the asset preservation fund for a funding source on that?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we're planning.
Any further questions? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would only comment to those that are interested, although electronic poll books and electronic poll tabs sound alike, have almost nothing in common other than they're both on iPads, just so you're aware.
I will comment, Mr. Chairman, if I can, that Anoka County should be proud of itself, the work that we do in the elections. I think we are always certainly at the curve or ahead of the curve in terms of keeping ahead of our systems. I think we recognize well that safety is critical, that security of our voting processes are critical, that that efficiencies at the polling location is important. And I think we've always done a really good job of that, and this possible only, I think, to help to aid further and benefit that outcome that we have come to know. So thank you for your efforts with that.
Thank you.
Cindy.
Thank you.
And that's all I had in that report, Mr. Chairman.
Well, without further discussion, we'll continue to a roll call vote.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
And that passes. Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, Commissioner Kordiak. We will now move on to the Public Safety Committee report. Commissioner Brastad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on March 20th, and we have 4 action items. The first being The committee recommends adoption of Resolution 2018-PS02, which is a dedicated donation from Family of Christ Lutheran Church in Ham Lake to Anoka County in the amount of $500 to be used by the Anoka County Sheriff's Office for training purposes. And I'll offer the resolution.
The resolution's been offered, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye. And that motion passes. Item 2.
The committee recommends adoption of Resolution 2018-PS03, acknowledging the retirement and transfer of ownership of Anoka County Sheriff's Office K-9 Mesa to her trainer and deputy, Brian Collier. Mesa is now having some health issues. She has served the county well. She had her last big event, which I believe was the Super Bowl. So it is now time to turn her over and let her rest. She has served us well. So I'd like to offer that resolution.
The resolution has been offered. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that resolution passes. Item 3.
The committee recommends approving and executing Contract C0006348, Joint and Cooperative Agreement for the Formation and Administration of the Anoka Hennepin Narcotics and Violent Crimes Task Force, effective March 1st, 2018.
And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
And that item passes. Item 4.
The committee recommends approving and executing Amendment Number 2 to Contract C0004194, Agreement for Operation of Inmate Telephone System and Services for Anoka County Detention Facilities between Anoka County and Inmate Calling Solutions, LLC, doing business as IC Solutions with a term of April 14th, 2018 through April 13, 2019.
Thank you, and I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll move it.
I have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
And that passes.
And that concludes that report.
Next, we'll move on to the Public Safety Committee Chair Report. Commissioner Brassad.
I would recommend approving and executing Contract C0006356 with Axon Enterprise, Inc., out of Scottsdale, Arizona, for the purchase of Axon body-worn camera equipment and hosted services with a 5-year contract for a total amount of $422,291.10, plus a contingency of $42,229.11, with an option to renew for an additional 5 years with new price quote.
Mr. Chair, I might suggest holding this particular action open until after the public comment period.
Perfect, and I think that's it's a good idea. We'll not vote to buy the cameras till after we hear public comment. There has been a public hearing already that the sheriff has held with plenty of public notice, but we're required and obliged to hold another one here this morning, and we will do so shortly. So we will hold this particular item off to the side, and we'll move on to Commissioner Kordiak.
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you, Sheriff, for, although I recognize that the cameras are coming forward and that's kind of where the world's going and maybe the public tends to expect that, I think in taking fair caution and making sure that you understand the responsibilities that the cameras carries with it, that the practical use applications of those cameras, of the costs associated with those cameras, which I won't get into, but they are costly to maintain that data. And there's a whole number of reasons why we might have delayed. You did that. Others kind of ran into that, for better or for worse. They're happy with it probably. But I do feel that was well of you to delay that implementation and move responsibly this matter. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. With that, we are going to move on to item 9, which is we'll consider public comment regarding the purchase and implementation of the cameras. For that, I will turn it over to Anoka County Attorney Tony Palumbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Yes, item 9 is to consider public comment regarding the purchase and implementation of the Axon body-worn cameras by the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. Under the law, those are also known as portable recording systems. And there is a statute, Minnesota Statute 626.8473, that governs the purchase of portable recording systems. The sheriff did have a public meeting on March 14th, 2018, where he invited members of the public to come forward and comment. That does comport with subdivision 2 of the statute. Another part of the law does require this body, which supervises the budget of the sheriff's office, to hold public comment at a regularly scheduled meeting, and that is the purpose of item 9 on your agenda. So with that, I would then invite any members of the public who wish to come forward, who wish to comment to the county board upon the purchase of portable recording systems by the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. Is there any member of the public that wishes to come forward to comment? And I will ask a third time for the record, any member of the public wish to come forward and comment on these. And for the record, I see no one has come forward, Mr. Chair. So at this point, I would turn the matter back to you for board agenda completion.
Thank you, County Attorney Palumbo. Now I think it would be appropriate for us to step back to the safety chair report, its action item. It has been brought before us. I don't believe we moved or seconded it yet, so we need.
No, it's not been.
I'll move that.
Second.
A motion and a second, and again, I'll reiterate it. The chair recommends approving and executing a contract with Axon Enterprise for the purchase of the Axon body-worn cameras. It's a 5-year contract for $422,291.10 with a contingency of 10%. Any further discussion or question?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you. I was just wondering, we've had a lot of discussion in different committees about the devices and everything, and I'm not sure if we've ever really had the sheriff have any discussion here at this board for the public. And I know that he's had a public, obviously he's had his own meeting where they took public comment, but maybe it'd be nice to just kind of go over some of the, it took a long time, and the sheriff's done his own due diligence to get this to where he's comfortable with the policy and everything, so I think it would be nice to have him give a couple words about that.
Absolutely. Sheriff.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Commissioner Gamache, thank you for the record. My name is James Stewart, and it is my privilege to serve as the Sheriff of Anoka County, and you are absolutely correct. This has been in the process for a long time. We've had cameras in our squad cars for many years now, and upon seeing the successes that come from that, our staff has very much embraced the concept of having the body cameras. So about 3 years ago, we began the process and working closely with Finance and the County Board, and through the CIP process obtained funding for the body cameras so that we could begin making sure that we were prepared for what the future brings. And at that point, I'm always mindful of my oath, and part of that is not just to protect and serve, but to be very mindful of the rights of our citizens. And the legislation that was lacking altogether at that point was of concern to me, and so we didn't roll out the cameras upon the first opportunity, but we began working with our legislators and making sure that the example I typically use, there was a lot of push to have everything be completely public. And while I understand that and the desire for the transparency, my concern again for the citizens is that if we respond to someone's house and they have a family member who is not, it's not uncommon for them to be in a compromised position and typically maybe unclothed or in the bathroom or in the shower, I don't think it is fair for that family or the victims to ever have that published. And the examples, I can go on for a long time with specific examples, but I'll spare you the details. So we worked with our legislators, and I think we came to a very workable compromise. I think the final laws that were put in place are good. And so at that point, we said, now what do we need to do to move this forward? In embracing the statute, they did have several elements of requirement, including the public hearings, which today really checks the final box in order to complete what's necessary to roll this system out. over the past couple of years. Then we've also worked with a variety of different vendors. Some of our team that worked diligently on that are here. We worked very closely, not just with finance and our internal IT, but also county IT, and making sure that all of our partners who could be potentially impacted by this process also had a voice and were able to express their concerns, and that we addressed them with each of the potential vendors. And long story, finally winding down, the team came forward with their selection to select the Axon body cameras as the ideal solution based on what was available now, and that was in large part we needed batteries, as an example, that would last 12 hours. We wanted good picture quality. We were concerned about the actual storage and retention methods of the data. We certainly recognize that the amount of video that we were going to be storing is a significant investment if we had to have internal servers versus cloud-based such as Axon provides. And so as we looked at all of those different circumstances, the team came back, recommended Axon as the solution for this point in time, and that's what we then brought forward, and we appreciate your partnership and support in this process.
Very good. Thank you. Any further questions?
I have a question for the chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Gamache.
During your public meeting that you had, did you have a big turnout? Any interesting questions that might have come up? Just kind of curious as to what the public is here, what you're hearing from the public regarding these cameras.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gamache, truth be known, prior to, I made a speculative prediction. I said I think we'll have 2 members of the public come. They'll both be in support of not just the camera system, but the sheriff's office, but they'll want to learn a little bit more, and we'll have 1 member of the public. And I wish I would have wagered, because I was 100% accurate. We had 2 members of the public and 1 member from the press. And honestly, the questions were very limited. They were oftentimes policy related, and upon learning that the policies are posted, we put them online, they're on the website. We want to be as transparent as possible through this whole thing. The questions were pretty minimal, and I think everyone, on whether it's, again, on the staff side or the public side, everyone is very excited to see the system roll out.
Thank you about the policy. That was going to be my next question. So I'm glad that we have it on the available on the website for the citizens to see. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Cordiak.
Aye.
And that passes. We will have body cameras soon. Thank you. And I too will go out and say thank you for taking your time to research, develop a good policy, let somebody else get out on the bleeding edge of this, and make sure that we follow up with the right process and the right product. I appreciate your thoughtfulness. With that, we'll move on to item 10. We're going to consider Resolution 2018-41, which is changes to the county organizational structure. And I will offer the resolution. And we should, this basically is working with our surveyors unit. Jerry, do you have a breakdown for us of what this organizational structure change is?
And Mr. Chair, members of the County Board, my name is Jerry Soma, the County Administrator. A couple of prefaces. The County Board has the authority and the responsibility to set the organizational structure. And from time to time, we look at that and change it if it makes sense, be more efficient and more expedient in how we do our business. Often we'll have a resolution. We've tried to combine several items in this one resolution. And if the board would want to pull one out, they certainly could as you move forward. A little bit of definitions. In our county structure, we have divisions, which usually are considered a number of departments. We have departments, which usually have, all departments have a department head who is appointed at the will of the county board. And then we have units. And units are usually smaller entities that are part of a department. Their scope of responsibilities are smaller, and the number of employees are generally smaller. And we're making changes in a number of these areas. The changes that we're recommending to the board today are related to a number of retirements that have occurred. The first one relates to our surveyors department, or lack of being a department. We appointed Chuck Gitson to be the department head of the surveyors area. I found out the day of the county board that it was not a department, it was a unit. So we're recommending that that unit become a department, and Mr. Gitson would have a a contract, which he already has. So it's a housekeeping item. The next area relates to some retirements that were in the Parks and Community Services Division, along with Mr. Von der Linde and Brad Fields and Paula Anderson and others. So what we're doing here is we're doing a number of things. The first area, the Recycling and Resource Solutions unit or department of that area has much in common with the Environmental Services unit. In fact, they both come to the meetings together. There's some employees that have cross functioning. Brad Fields has left. We think it's best served to have those two functions merged together under environmental health, with Dan Disrud being the supervisor of that area. That committee of jurisdiction would be the Human Services Committee. So that has kind of bounced around a little bit. The name has changed. We want to keep as much integrity of each of the units as possible, and we think this is the best way to move forward in that area. Our License Bureau, which has been formally adopted by the County Board as a License Bureau, in reality has been in our website and others, the License and Passport Services area. It's not been a department. We think because of the complexity and the amount of offices they have, that we should change the name and make it a department. It's our plan to appoint John Lenars as department head. That will come as a separate item because we need to get a contract and PDQ completed for John. So that'll come back at a future date. But John is here today, has served us well. Paula, who's been kind of the co-chair of the department, is leaving, so we're going to do some restructuring. That will actually report to Dan Goodman and County Administration, and the Management Committee will be its committee of jurisdiction. So you'll see some more action regarding a contract with John in the future. The next area is the division of the Parks and Community Service. Mr. Von der Linde was the director of the Parks Department for a number of years. Then we made a division, and he became the division manager. Well, he's leaving us. And so it's felt that the other two parts of that division have been peeled off, and that we should just have a Parks, I think it's Parks and Recreation Department. We're going to ask the board to appoint Jeff Perry. At the time we did this, we didn't have that solidified. We will be working with Jeff on a PDQ and a contract, and that will come back in the next board meeting or two. So there's a lot of changes here. We think it's I think we need to give John Von der Linde some credit. He came forward and said, hey, I'm going to leave. I think I'm going to leave, I think, at the first time. And I have some ideas. And we started working on those ideas. The board has been a part of that decision process. And I think in the end, we'll miss John. I think how things worked in the last 5 or 6 years in that division has worked very well. But I think these changes have given us some opportunities. So that kind of concludes what's in this particular document. Again, you'll see something on Jeff Perry and John Lenars in the next future board meetings.
Thank you. Commissioner Kordiak.
Jerry, thank you for commenting about John's, normally when somebody separates themselves from wherever they're at, kind of the answer kind of is, show me the door, I'm on the way out. But John had thoughtfully thought about his departments and its functioning operation and who's who and how that works. And he did bring forward a rather thoughtful plan. While we may not have chipped away on every single piece he outlined, what I think we collectively felt was a really, really good model. So we appreciate his ability to structure that. This whole area here hits pretty close to me because I work with all of these entities as I do through the committee. We've discussed those things at committees and separately and independently, and a lot of it just makes a lot of sense. I don't know that I'll go over every single one, but the Parks Department's been a Parks Department forever, and it is a department yet, and will function just fine like that. The recycling component operates within environmental services and such areas in a wide variety of entities throughout the metropolitan area and beyond. I think it can function well. The License Bureau, John has done such a good job with Sue. He's made an excellent manager. I have little doubt that he will serve us well in that capacity. So I think that we're pretty good position when we move a plan like this forward, and I certainly do support it.
And I would comment that to be innovative and fiscally responsible, these are the type of things you do. If you're adverse to change, you're likely going to be really uncomfortable on this board. Because I've been on this board a very short time, and we've done a lot of changing in those 5.5 years, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Because that, with innovation, is change. Some people are adverse, and I apologize if you are. I don't think anyone here is, though. The resolution is on the floor, and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimous. Next, we'll move on to item 11. Consider approving the following related to appropriations for the 2018 Memorial Day observances. We're going to take all three of these together, A, B, and C, so I'll read all three right now. Appropriating pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 375.35, $200 to each post of a recognized military service persons organization or society organized and existing in the county, holding charter from Congress or incorporated in this state for defraying the expenses of Memorial Day exercises, which submits a written request to the county administration by December 31st of 2018. It's really hard to believe that's all one sentence with just commas, not a period in there. B, reimbursing pursuant to Minnesota statute section 375.34, expenses up to $200 to any military person service persons organization or society holding charter from Congress or incorporated in this state which exists outside the county but holds Memorial Day services in the county not to exceed a total reimbursement of $1,000 and which submits a statement in writing by December 31st of 2018 detailing the expenses incurred in such services. And lastly, appropriating pursuant to Minnesota statute section 375.34 up to $2,500 to the Anoka County Veterans Council to aid in the observance of Memorial Day.
I'll move 11A, B, and C.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Cordiak.
Aye.
And that passes. Next, we will do committee appointments. We will consider reappointing Battalion Chief Tim Gilsrud, representing Fire Service, and Joseph Thomas, representing Citizens, to the Emergency Medical Services Council for a 3-year term expiring December 31st of 2020.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that motion passes. With that, is there anything else to come before the county board? Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned.